Good evening. I'm calling to order the meeting for April 16th, 2015 of the Littleton Zoning Board of Appeals. We are at the Littleton Town Offices, Room 103, 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Mass. And we have enough members. We have a quorum. We have 4 regular members and 3 alternates tonight. Good evening. The first order of business, and to me the most important order of business, is our board needs to vote the new position that Michelle Cobley was appointed to by the Selectmen and the Personnel Committee. If you all remember, some time ago, we signed a memorandum of understanding between the Selectmen, the Board of Health, and the Zoning Board, and the building inspector, whereby the administrative functions up on the 3rd floor of this building were rearranged. And as part of that, Michelle became an administrative assistant to the 2 boards. Now, based on Michelle's advanced skills and expertise and her being so invaluable to our boards, all 3 of us have decided, especially the building commissioner, that they're trying to plan a succession plan for Michelle to get a step increase in her position, a title with more responsibilities, and perhaps to start grooming her for the position of assistant building inspector, and someday perhaps building inspector. So with the approval of Personnel Committee, the recommendation of the Personnel Committee, and then a meeting before the Board of Selectmen, and your board, this board's support at the prior meetings last month and the month before, we were successful, and Michelle was successful in achieving that position. So we are being written to by Roland Bernier and Ann Essman the following. I would respectfully request your approval to appoint Miss Michelle Cobley to the position of Zoning Assistant, Permit Technician, Business Administrator, effective April 13th, 2015. This appointment is prompted by succession planning in the building and zoning functions, allowing for additional professional growth and services utilizing existing staff. Ms. Cobley is the current administrative assistant for these departments, and that vacated position would not be filled. The Board of Health and Zoning Board of Appeals have provided letters of support for this change, but must also vote to approve this appointment pursuant to Amendment Number 1 of the Memorandum of Agreement between the boards, which the Selectmen approved on March 9th, and which the Board of Health and the ZBA must also vote to execute. The employee appointment by the Building Commissioner also requires approval of the Town Administrator under Town Code Section 3-3. The following process has been followed. A formal job description was created, reviewed, and rated by the Personnel Board on February 26, 2015. This position is full-time, benefit-eligible, and non-exempt. Reviewed approval from the Board of Selectmen via the Staffing Vacancy Review on March 9, 2015. Posted as an internal posting only on March 10, 2015, in accordance with the Personnel Bylaw. Only 1 application was received, Ms. Cobley. A review of the new position, job description, increased expectations, and certified requirements was held with Ms. Cobley. As she is already completing most of these enhanced functions, she is eager to make the official change. This position is governed by Amendment Number 1 to the MOA between the Board of Selectmen, Board of Health, and ZBA, which requires votes of approval of this appointment by the Board of Health and the Zoning Board of Appeals, as well as the Town Administrator's approval under Town Code 3-3. Accordingly, the effective date of this appointment shall be on the latest date of those 3 approvals shown below. An offer to Ms. Cobley will be contingent upon successful completion of a pre-employment drug and alcohol test, which she announces she's passed, V review, and a query check. The offer will also require Ms. Cobley to obtain her CSL certification within 18 months. What is the CSL?
Construction supervisor's license.
Construction supervisor license, then puts her in good standing to start being an assistant to the building inspector, which she's been doing quite well, and has college education credentials and on-the-job training to do so. This is just another notch in your belt, and we're very proud of you and very happy to have you. So I'll entertain a motion from anybody that we approve this, and approve the appointment of Ms. Cobley and sign the MOA.
I move we approve the appointment of Michelle Cobley to the position as described. Zoning Assistant, Permit Technician, Business Administrator.
Second, please.
I'll second.
Oh, you know what, I forgot,
But are we giving you double duty?
I forgot to designate another member, Alan.
Are we giving you double duty? I mean, if you're taking over this additional responsibility, are we going to be, is it going to be, you need assistance?
Well, I did get an assistant. Part of, once this is approved, then the building department is approved to have an assistant come in for 10 hours a week,
Oh, okay.
so.
There's
So
You are
she'll
already
start to
working
do some of
full-time.
the administrative stuff, so I can do more of the permitting and zoning and,
There are also volunteers upstairs that help
right, the
with some of the
senior tax
functions.
program, when that starts, they're always looking for hours, so.
I mean, because you don't sit, the reason I ask is I know you don't sit around twiddling your thumbs.
No.
So I just,
That I do
I'm
not.
concerned that you not be overloaded, but I'm glad to hear you have an assistant. That answers my question, thank you. I'm happy to second.
Michelle has also done a wonderful job of streamlining our process in a number of different ways, not the least of which is that we went to postcard notices. And I just applaud her for the efficiency up in that department. So we have a second from Cheryl. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Congratulations. Is today the 16th? And I just have one place to sign. We already signed the MOA, right?
Yes.
Okay, there's that one. Hand that like gold back to Michelle. She's waited a long time to have this process go through. Okay, do we have any mail?
There are,
Okay, I have a bill to sign. Secretary, want to sign the bill? No? Okay.
Well, no, you can, no, it's,
Decisions out of Westford. Westford. Does anyone want to just comment, we have a few minutes left, comment on the candidates' night? Will you share with the board when the candidates' night is with Rotary, just so everybody's aware of
I
it?
believe the 29th. Let me double check. Do you remember, Alan?
I don't, because I know one's going to be out of town, so I didn't even record it.
Let me just double check real quick. It's the 29th, Wednesday, the 29th. I believe it's taking place here again. And I believe that we have some contested races. Unfortunately, we don't have a contested race for selectmen, but I understand our candidate is a lovely one. I just like contested races, and nothing against the candidate that we have. And so
Tim Goddard is moderating.
Tim Goddard is moderating, and
This should be a good time.
yours truly will be there collecting questions.
Great. And we filed our report. So this isn't a full year, this is year-to-date?
that's year-to-date, so there's money. for any
So we should have a
trainings or-
party. It looks like, looks like we took in $5,385 this year, and we've only spent $3,181. So we have a balance of $2,203.30, which, again, I'm pretty proud of, because we've been keeping within our budget every year. And we've been keeping our fees for applications consistent with keeping within our budget, so that's all good.
Do you want to do minutes real quick?
Yes, we have one set of minutes to review in front of you. If you all recall, this is going back to August. We've struggled to get these done because it was a lengthy and meeting with a lot in it. So They have been revised now for the board, full board review, and I'd like to go over them.
I have one change on the fourth paragraph. Cheryl Hollinger stated she's an abutter, so she must recuse herself, but remained in the audience. It's not that I chose not to participate. It says chose not to participate.
Are you looking at the latest ones?
Look at the one she just gave me.
This is the fourth paragraph, above the opening of the hearing.
Starts off.
Chair Gould stated she is recusing herself from the first hearing.
Because financial association of Farm Shores.
Cheryl Hollinger stated she's an abutter, so she must recuse herself, but she remained in the audience.
Okay.
And then the other change that I have is on the second page, first paragraph, last sentence. Cheryl Hollinger indicated that she was leaving the room before the hearing started to avoid the perception of a conflict.
Okay.
Now, if you want, I just give you hers.
Yes.
Okay?
Okay? And then, my spelling's atrocious.
That's
Don't
okay,
hold
I
it
can-
against me. And then, ignore this, because I was scribbling and I realized I scribbled in the wrong place. On the second to last page, they do the hearing on 270 Harvard Road, which Cher Gould and I have recused ourselves from. And then they go right into deliberations on 76 to Hadwin Road. Since between each hearing it says that we rejoined, I think there it should say Chair Gould and Cheryl Hollinger did not rejoin the meeting.
Okay.
And before you finish, Rod, I'm going to have you vote on these, okay? I need an alternate voting member. Is that it?
Yes.
Anyone else have comments to these minutes? I know that Mr. Farnsworth already made his comments. He was here, he chaired it, so, or he chaired
Yes,
that
his
particular
changes, he
section,
brought
so
me
you have his
changes during the week, and those are incorporated in
Yeah.
these.
Okay, so the gray outline at the beginning, I think, is Bill Farnsworth's last change, and then the changes Cheryl just mentioned. So I'll entertain a motion to approve these minutes as amended.
I move we approve the minutes of the August 21st, 2014 meeting as amended.
Second by Rod. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? No.
Would you pass these down to Shelley?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, one more thing before we call the 7:30 meeting to order. Jeff and I discovered last meeting that there were 5 decisions to be written, I think 4 decisions to be written. I believe I took 3 of them and Jeff took 1 of them, and we really need to spread out the decision writing a little bit. But a comment that he made was, perhaps we should decide the decision writer before the hearing, or try to, so that that decision writer can take better notes and be able to write the decision and remember who was a voting member on it. So I suspect that tonight we have 2 hearings. The cell tower hearing will be more complicated, so I will agree to do that one, but I need someone to agree to write the decision on the other one, which is a special permit for an accessory dwelling. So anybody who hasn't done one in a while like to volunteer? Or anyone who's never done one like to volunteer? Don't look away, this isn't like
I've done
church.
one. I've done
I'm
one.
going to call with
I've
you,
done
even
them.
if you're not looking at me.
I'll try to do it, but the last time I tried to do it this time of year, it was not good.
We'll stay
didn't get
on
it
you.
done.
Jeff and I will stay on you. How's that? We'd love your volunteerism.
Okay.
Okay. We also have 3 alternates tonight, and so I'm going to assign the alternates now. What I'd like to do is put Patrick as the alternate on the, 1, 2, 3,
Trot Road?
I'll put Patrick as the alternate on Trot Road. And I guess I should draw straws on the cell tower one. I need you both here if it goes another night anyway, but who's done the last one?
Cell tower.
Who sat the last time we had an alternate? Was
I mean, like this last week, this
last meeting.
last meeting.
Yeah, I can't
Yeah, I
remember.
think
I'll tell you in a minute.
you and Mark got the heavy load.
Okay.
So, Rod? Okay. And, okay, so it's 7:30. I'd like to open hearing case number 851A, the case of Margaret Nazzaro's request for a special permit pursuant to section 17358 for an accessory dwelling at 15 Trot Road. Would you come forward, please? You don't look like a Margaret, I'm sorry.
Today. Though I've been with her for a long time, she's my wife, I'm Ernie Nazaro.
Mr. Nazaro, I just want to ask you to take a seat and feel comfortable. The way we do this is we have you present your case first, then the board will ask questions. If there's anyone here who would like to speak in favor or in opposition, we hear from them. We'll read any comments, if there were any, from the building inspector. You'll have a right to rebut, and then we'll probably go straight to a decision. Okay? So why don't you tell us first what you're here for?
Well, what we have is we have an addition on our property that we've had for several years, and we've used it for my mother, who's living there in the mother-in-law addition that I built. We had just not filed the paperwork, and we missed keeping the permit up to date, and somehow it just got overlooked. So that's why we're back in here now.
So can I just review for the board? Your original permit was granted to you, I thought I saw in 1996.
Yes,
And I can't believe I was on the board that long ago, but I was.
you actually remember.
And so these permits are supposed to be renewed every 3 years. So you've got a free boat, a free ride for a few of those.
It seemed like we never received, Peggy, my wife.
Hi
How do you
there.
do?
Sorry, I apologize for being late.
You probably didn't get a notice, and I'm not sure whether they send those out routinely or you're supposed to keep track of it.
Okay.
I wonder how many people actually do renew.
Well, the interesting thing is that there's a fee, a reduced fee to renew. You got stuck paying the full application fee because you didn't renew. But I think Michelle and I did the math, and I think you still came out all right. Had you renewed every 3 years with the reduced fee, I think you would have been about at the
What is the
same
reduced fee?
place.
It's
Michelle?
$25 every 3 years. A letter gets sent out, and then if there's no response after about 2 months, another one gets sent out. What was in their folder was prior to when I was here, but it was a letter that was marked 2005, and then another one 2007. And then after that point, they just lapse it.
And sometimes people don't answer because the relationship is no longer there,
Right.
as you're well aware. But you're saying that your parent is still there?
Yes.
Thank God.
Well, yes. It's good that she is.
Okay. Does the board have any other questions? Is there anybody here that would like to speak to this application? Yes, ma'am.
Cynthia Higgins, 14 Trot Road. I'm in favor.
Are you a neighbor?
Yes.
Does she make you cookies? It's nice that you came out to support.
Not all grandmothers make cookies.
And do we have any comments from the building department? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Patrick, how did you vote?
Aye.
Moved and seconded to close the hearing, voted unanimously. Now I'll entertain a motion for the application if you want to go straight to it.
I make a motion that we grant the application for an accessory dwelling. We're not really re-granting the whole,
Here we are.
are re-granting the whole special
Yeah,
permit?
they had to start all over again.
So I should make a note of my own motion? I have to write this? Okay. Make a motion that we grant the special permit for 15 Crane Road,
Yeah,
Trot.
Trot.
Trot Road,
Trot Road.
sorry, 15 Trot Road. Assessor's map and parcel, would that be a good thing to
You can
say?
just say the address, but what you want to say is in your findings that we found the requirements were met. That is,
The relationship of the person occupying the accessory dwelling is your mother-in-law, the relationship. The Board of Health documentation is present that the sewage disposal system is satisfactory for the 4 bedrooms, and their parking requirements are met.
so that was a motion to approve the special permit for accessory dwelling. Second, please.
Second.
John, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we want to reference the 1996 year?
You can in your decision, we spoke of it.
All right, I'll have to walk you through that. You're all set.
Okay,
You win.
thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for coming back, and
Thank you all.
you're helping us with our excessive budget.
Yeah, the new permitting software that we're using will help keep these renewals more on track because it'll automatically pop up every 3 years.
I'm surprised they got a letter in 2005.
Well, no, that was Charlotte. Do you think that would have been Charlotte or the building
5
department?
and then 1 and 7. And then there were some notes in the book, but anything that was more than a year old
So what
when I
brought
started.
them?
She must have, I don't know how she even found out, because she came up and she says, oh, I think I forgot to renew it. And if it's within the 3-year period, we just renew it, but where it was 2005, I was like, oh, I think I have to reapply.
So our next hearing is advertised for 7:45, and as the applicant knows, we can't start until 7:45, so we could, we did minutes, so we don't have another set of minutes. Does anybody have anything to report or talk about? There is, I heard this week from the selectmen that they're revitalizing a master plan committee, and I think there are 10 members appointed to it, and I think they have 9, maybe my numbers are off. I did hear, maybe there's 11 members and they have 10 of them. 8 men and 2 women. And so they're looking for another applicant for the master plan committee. Anybody interested should apply. It doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman, but it would be nice if there's a woman who's interested who would like to participate, just so we have some representation.
There's only one other woman on this board.
No, I'm speaking to the audience, really, because you're overemployed, too.
There's no other women in the
I was
audience
going to
either.
say, there seems a little
There's
pointed.
only one other woman in the
There's no one
world.
in the audience, no women in the
No, I'm
audience.
speaking to the camera. I'm hoping that people will see that and come forward, because it's,
I'm not voting for you next time you come up for election.
For me?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm a town resident.
well, sure, but she was saying a woman, you're not a
No, but you
woman.
said nobody's in the audience.
No,
No,
women
no.
in the audience. No, women, you don't look like a woman, I'm sorry.
so that's just my 2 cents. We have town meeting coming up. I hope everyone will come to that. And we have elections coming up. I hope everyone will do their civic duty. Town meeting's a wonderful thing. There's not many places in the world where they still conduct this good old-fashioned, I call it the New England town meeting, where you have a chance to really be heard.
And it's a hoot.
And it's
That's
a hoot.
great.
It's a
That's
great
great.
show.
It's a hoot. It's so much fun. You just need to bring up padding to sit on those benches.
Yeah. And
Drink
candy.
plenty of coffee.
Plenty of
Well-
coffee
So
and
you stay
candy,
awake.
yeah.
You gotta watch the regulars jumping up and down. That keeps you awake. But sometimes you wanna throw things. Getting myself in trouble here, aren't I?
It's all recorded.
Right.
Thank you.
Nobody has anything else? I could do a stand-up comedy. You could do a stand-up
No.
comedy.
That's not going on there. That's not going on the camera.
Well, we had a little, someone who had bought into what was it called? What's the name of that 40B we did?
Omni,
No.
15
15
Great
Great Road, or...
No, no, no.
Oh,
Kim
Paddock
Lock.
Way.
Paddock Way.
Paddock Way.
And they're having a problem with the common fees.
Kimlock Farms, yeah.
And there was just concern that the people who bought the subsidized units weren't going to be able to afford the common fees.
Is this because of the result of all the snow plowing?
They just hadn't set aside enough, and so to catch up, they had to go pretty high for a period of time. And so the person, someone who I know, had just reached out and said, was just concerned about a burden on the people who had subsidized units, but also, what was the understanding at the time of, should they be getting a break and this and that? And Sherry talked to the developers, said they did not give a break to the subsidized units because their experience, and I can see this, is it created ill will among the entire group if some people had to pay more than others. And, at the time of purchase, the fees were factored into the affordability, but the fees are significantly higher than, and partly it's because there's only, 8 units, they're large units,
This is the one off Goldsmith.
yeah, so, anyway. But I also, he didn't have an understanding of the nature of the subsidy, the people that bought the subsidized units are not poor people, they're actually, solid. He was concerned that it was just beyond their, capacity,
Well,
so.
it's really a no-win situation because the developer's gone, so we can't stick him with, all the units have been sold
Yeah.
at this point, so you can't stick the developer with the fees or the excess.
Well, but it's not his it's not.
It's not his
yeah.
responsibility anymore. So, and it does cause a dichotomy if everyone has an equal vote, but doesn't pay equally for the
Right.
common grounds being kept up. And indeed, they did pay less to start with, so their mortgage is less, so that should help. But this was a particularly nasty winter, a
Sure.
really bad
Yeah.
winter for snow. I mean, my snow plowing bills are outrageous this
Yeah.
year, and my guy's cheap, so it's tough.
Anyway, so that was just, it's something that we,
It's an interesting thought.
we look at whatever the situation is, and I'm with you, I don't know what it's six of one, half dozen of another way to do it. And so, anyway, it's just a little perspective, whatever comes up again, we should maybe pay more attention to it.
If there's 8 owners taking care of a common area, and some owners want to hire landscapers to do X, Y, and Z, and other owners would rather not pay as much X, Y, and Z, and they all have an equal vote, because they're all paying equally, then if you have one person who's paying a third of what everyone else is paying, and he votes to do X, Y, and Z, you will cause ill will
Yes,
and
yeah.
hard feelings.
No, I agree.
I just want to comment that it was discussed, and is always discussed when we do these projects with condominium ownership, and it will show that it was discussed in the minutes. It's in the declaration of trust and the master deed as to what things are covered by the common charges. For instance, I suggested maybe people could mow their own lawns, but as a project, they want consistent appearance of manicured lawns, and so it's there, in the covenants, it says that the lawns will be done as a master charge,
Over
as a
on-
common charge.
Question, over on 15 Great Road, I remember we had discussions about water and septic fees and doing reduced fees for the
Affordables.
affordable units there. And that's not a case where people are voting on whether or not to have their sewage taken care of. It's a fee. And there wouldn't be the perception of unequalness there, I don't think. But I don't remember what we did there and why.
I think, my memory is not that we voted as to how the private septic treatment plant would rate its customers. We voted on whether or not we would waive hookup fees for the units, for the affordable units. And I don't think we had a say in how the septic treatment plant ownership would rate its users, because that was the domain of the Department of DEP.
Okay.
Okay, it's past 8:40, it's past 7:45. So I'm going to open the 7:45 hearing of case number 852, New Singular Wireless, PCS LLC, request for a variance pursuant to section 173, 131B5 to extend the height of the existing 100-foot tower by 15 feet at 559A Newtown Road. Gentlemen, will you introduce yourselves? And you heard the format that we use, and I'm sure you're no strangers to zoning boards.
Hi, I'm Michael Dolan. I'm from the law firm of Brown Rudnick, counsel to New Singular Wireless, PCS LLC, doing business as AT&T Wireless. I have a few folks with me here tonight. Dick Mann from Nanapashomet Consulting, which is a site acquisition firm that helped identify this site. And then also here with me tonight is Sohail Usmani, who is a radio frequency engineer, if the board has any questions in that capacity.
Could I just ask you to spell the company that Mr. Mann is with?
Nanepashmet.
M-E-T.
Yeah.
MET.
And spell the name of the radio frequency specialist you have.
Sohail, Sohail, last name Usmani,
Thank you very much.
and I'm here with AT&T.
Thank you. I'm writing a decision, I want to get it right. Go ahead.
So AT&T, as you may know, has an FCC license, a copy of which is enclosed with our application, to operate a wireless telecommunications network throughout the United States, including the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. As part of the build-out of its network, AT&T is seeking to install a wireless antenna facility at the 559 Newtown Road property, which is owned by the Town of Littleton Board of Water Commissioners. As demonstrated in the radio frequency engineer's report and the coverage plot plans included with our application, the proposed facility would help fill a hole in AT&T's network. Specifically, the facility would help provide coverage to AT&T customers within the town of Littleton, especially along Newtown Road, Harwood Avenue, portions of Route 2, and the surrounding neighborhoods. The facility will consist of a 15-foot extension to the existing 100-foot lattice tower currently situated on the property. And what AT&T is proposing to do with that extension is to attach 12-panel antennas within that 15-foot extension, and AT&T will also be installing related cabling and ground equipment within the existing equipment compound, which is currently fenced in by a 6-foot chain link fence. As for why this site, after having identified the hole in its network, as is customary practice, AT&T first looked to identify existing structures upon which it could locate its antennas, so as to avoid the prospects of having to build a new structure to fill its coverage hole. And we're pleased in this instance that we did find an existing structure that with this minor extension would be able to propagate a signal that would fill that hole in our network. We're not only pleased that we won't have to build a new tower-type structure, we're also pleased that the revenues, the lease payments that we'll be making in this instance support the Town of Littleton Board of Water Commissioners. So we're thankful in that regard that that's another plus to our proposal. Due to sight lines, tree canopies, and the surrounding conservation land, the small extension to this monopole will be of limited visibility. We have included with our application photo simulations, which we believe demonstrate that. As you probably know, the water department currently uses this property and has a water tank on the property. Most recently, AT&T obtained a special permit as well as site plan approval for this project, and we're now respectfully requesting of this board the 15-foot variance above the 100-foot tower height limit set forth in the bylaw. At this time, I'm free to answer any questions you may have.
I have a couple of questions,
Sure.
and that is, when you went before the planning board, I saw that their decision approved you subject to obtaining the variance.
That's
From
correct.
this board. I also see that you have a ladder array currently on that site, and you want to put
Is this
essentially...
a current?
Yeah, if you look, we can look at the photo simulations together. That would be,
Is this the simulation or the current?
That's the
well, we've got
simulation.
both. So that one right there, the cover page is the, if we go to tab 13,
Oh, I see. So this is current,
correct,
and this is simulation.
exactly.
Shelley has another thing.
What about, thank you.
I
Thank
think we
you.
have a butter.
Yeah, we're going to ask 4 questions first, please. Have you seen the pictures?
Nope.
Are you in a butter?
Yep.
Would you like to come forward? You can even drag your chair up so you can see all the
Why don't you
pictures.
pull a chair right up here?
I have color ones if you want to look at, not sure those ones you got in multi.
And actually, because
Oh, you did, okay.
because we've invited you up, I would like you to state your name and address for the board.
Charles Howell, 564 Newtown Road.
Oh, you look great. I haven't seen you in a long time. I didn't
Just
recognize
last week,
you.
Sounds
Okay.
He's in that existing.
So you're essentially across the street from the site in the red house.
Yep, right down the bottom hill.
Yeah. And
You're in the old house. That's a lovely old house. I think that's the oldest house in Littleton.
the other thing is, can you describe for me why you choose a ladder array with panels rather than a whip antenna type thing, which is less obtrusive?
Yeah, the whip antenna wouldn't be able to transmit the signal with the bandwidth that's required for AT&T customers, which would be for LTE coverage, which is long-term evolution of 4G technology. There's, as you all know, if you have cell phones, a lot of data being transmitted on these systems. So a typical whip antenna has a very limited capability as far as the type of signal it can broadcast. So these panel antennas are the state-of-the-art technology that we're using at this time to be able to meet consumer demand.
There, it looks like there would be plenty of room to put another array underneath the existing array. Have you looked into that, and what is the,
We have the space below our, below the existing antennas is, from a RF perspective, does not cover the same coverage hole, because then you're going down another 20 feet. And similarly, the rights to that part of the tower are not available to us because other carriers hold the proprietary rights to that space.
you can stay here if you want.
Sitting on top of you.
You mentioned the lease payments. Since another tower is not being built, are there additional lease payments as part of this?
Yes.
Okay.
And can I just ask, those are negotiated directly with the water department and not with the existing tower, is that correct?
Correct.
I mean, the existing lessee.
We will have to pay the owner of the tower to locate on that tower, but we also have to pay the water department.
The water department directly.
They control the ground.
Okay. Mr. Howe, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, I have a few questions.
Please.
You're saying height makes a difference? So the higher up, the further your signal goes out?
By and large, yes.
But did you look at the AT&T tower on Newtown Road?
Yes.
And
That site would provide duplicative coverage to what we already have in that area.
Are you located on that site?
No.
Why is it called the AT&T Tower?
Well, I believe AT&T, the landline company, used to own it, but we are not on that facility. We would love to be on the facility if it worked, but it doesn't.
Do you have a map that shows that
Yeah, we have,
duplicative coverage?
we have coverage
There's not
maps.
very much difference. I mean, as a crow flies, there's very little difference between the two sites.
Yeah, I think it can also
We're
be
used to that one
topography
being
too,
introduced.
the
They're
elevation.
both on the tops of high hills.
Yep,
And there's no trees around that one.
No, there's no trees around that one. It's already obnoxious.
Yeah, it's already 200 feet tall, so it's taller height, so you can go all the way up to 200 feet.
yeah, that,
I can speak.
yeah, the RF engineer can speak to that. Sure.
Just to give a general idea of where this is.
I can hold it, please.
If you put it up on the ledge right near the TV, it usually is easy to see.
I can hold
Maybe
it.
it's too small. Thank you.
Can you see?
Yeah.
So I think the other site is located somewhere around here, I think.
Yes.
And it's close to, so these green dots, the green dots that you see on this map are currently on-air sites. The orange dots that you see are the ones that we are proposing or are in the plan.
And this is the only one we're here on tonight.
This is the one that we are for. Yeah, thanks. So the site location that we looked at, which is here, is not only is it close to our on-air site and presents a lot of overlapping coverage, what we call. So there's a lot of overlapping coverage here.
The green is obviously where we have coverage, and the non-green is where we don't.
Right. As you would all know, that this location is right next to a water tank, which is higher elevation. And this site, being where it is, doesn't provide signal because of this terrain. There's already terrain issues just by being here as well, but my coverage gets, so I can shoot parts of Route 2. So this is the coverage, proposed coverage, with the site that we're here for at the tower with the proposed extension. I can, cover parts of Route 2. It provides coverage on, what's this, Newtown Road, and lots of areas. This one doesn't even get beyond this, just because of the terrain issues.
Can we see those up close, please?
I'm confused, the terrain issues, you're up at a higher height, you're above the terrain.
No, I think he said if he put his array on the AT&T tower, essentially it bumps into the higher terrain on the water tower, I think is what he's saying.
That's, yes,
The
correct.
hills are only 20 feet difference in height. So if you're going up to a 200-foot tower and you're going up 180 feet,
I don't
You're
think they
higher.
can go to 180. I think their band has to be at 115-ish.
Right, there's quite a number of existing microwave dishes and also antennas on the top, so there's, we cannot really reach that 180. Also, the ground elevation of the difference, it looks like they're on top of the hill, but if you look at the topography, the elevation of the so-called AT&T tower is actually significantly less in terms of elevation from the ground level. So yes, it's a taller tower, but it started at a lower elevation, as well as the top about 100 feet are occupied by existing antennas and microwave dishes that we have no right to. So by the time that we can add our array, we're at a much lower elevation.
those microwave dishes aren't even used anymore.
But we have no right to them, so
We can't tell them to
can't.
take them off.
So the tower at 451 Newtown Road is at 433 feet elevation, ground elevation. And the one at the AT&T is 358. So you already have, a difference there. And then just by being so far away, and then that hill causes a shadow, and prevents the coverage from getting around Route 2.
Can I ask a couple of questions in a row, please? The AT&T tower, is it possible to get located on that tower? Have you communicated with the owners? Can anybody even locate there?
Has it been
That's
pursued?
that's a privately owned facility.
And how have you pursued it? And do you have any documentation to that effect?
We did not pursue that because from the radio frequency analysis, it's already much overlap with
It doesn't
existing
make sense.
on-air.
But-
And therefore, we did not really approach it because.
My question wasn't whether you exhausted that search. My only question is, I've always thought that to be some sort of a defense facility, and is it even possible to get on that tower, is a question.
We don't know.
You don't even know
Because
that.
we ruled it out from a radio frequency
Okay.
perspective.
Number two, excuse me, one sec.
I could answer your question.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, you can put antennas on that. Back when we had the original meeting to put this tower up, I had actually called the AT&T person in charge of that tower.
So there's a private ownership by AT&T.
AT&T owns it, and they will,
You can't
the
reach
thing is, they are the ones that put the antennas up there, they're the ones that maintain them. That's
How
why
long ago did you make that call?
I made that call
10 years ago.
10 years ago,
So that you
15
know,
years
though,
ago.
that they still own it?
As far as I know, AT&T
10
has
years
never
ago? I
sold
mean,
It's not up for debate, I'm just
No.
curious.
yeah.
But our town doesn't even allow private towers.
Except it's
grandfathered.
existing, so it may be grandfathered, who knows?
But we've always wanted the revenue from
Right.
these to go to the town.
My next question is, Mr. Howe, do you see the array that's up there from your house? Can you visually see it?
I can see it from my backyard.
You can see it from your backyard. Is there a light on it, like the AT&T tower has a
No.
blinking red beacon? There's no lights on it?
I don't know if the 15-foot variance will make a difference or not.
No, it doesn't. We already had an FAA
You won't,
analysis.
you won't need a light on
Yeah.
top.
We will agree to a condition that it will not be lit.
Okay, and the second question is, people are worried, have always been worried about the microwaves, the radio frequency being harmful to people who live in the neighborhood. My only question is this, is there a difference, maybe to the radio frequency specialist, is there a difference in what frequency goes out to, with potential harmful effects, if you're higher rather than lower? Because one suggestion was, why can't you mount it lower? But if you mounted it lower, is the, whatever effects going to be the same as if it's higher?
Well, I can speak that. Included at tab 11 is a radio frequency compliance report as far as the electromagnetic energy. And this proposed site would produce less than 5% of the FCC allowed federal limit of electromagnetic emissions.
So, to go back to another question, is that right? You're saying that the area below has already been leased by someone?
Correct.
It hasn't bothered to put up an array yet?
That's correct.
So you have no rights to go to the area below?
Right. It may be that
Do
the,
you know who has leased the area below?
I don't know, but I can,
And who leases the current array there? Who has the current array there?
I think there's Verizon is on there.
Okay.
and many times some companies will control multiple levels for future development.
I see. Okay, here's something I want the board to think about, which I'm going to say now rather than waiting for the deliberations board because it may raise more questions with you. There are a lot of cell phone companies out there, and every cell phone company wants to have complete coverage because that increases their business and their revenue stream and their desirability to be in here. And their cell phones are becoming more and more popular. We're never going to go back to the day where we're back on landlines. This is going to be a continuing problem and a continuing issue where each of these cell phones are going to want to have their arrays as high as possible and as many of them as possible. And so we granted the thing extension for 15 feet today to allow AT&T because AT&T should have coverage. And the FAA says, or the FCC says they have a right to have their coverage. So we granted them this today, and then 2 years down the road, another company, Sprint or whatever, is going to come along and they want to have coverage, and so they won't want to go below, they'll want to have better coverage than the next one. So they're going to need another 15 feet. And the question is, at what point, when we have 8 different arrays or 15 different companies trying to compute for these spots, at what point do we draw the line? At what point do we say no more? The town voted to have a 100-foot limit. And so if we keep going up and going up, we have to think about when are we going to say no.
Okay, so that is more of a deliberation
Yeah,
session
sorry.
comment, because the applicant wasn't asked a question, but I'm going to just make a comment back to that, and that is, when we adopted the wireless cell phone bylaw, now I believe it's 20 years ago, the then planning board and I believe the zoning board participated, worked very hard to struggle with exactly those questions, because the FCC was telling communities that they had no choice and that they had to make allowances for cell towers to be the new wave. And this town, this community worked very hard to frame a bylaw that has worked and worked pretty well in here, that A, locates the towers on municipally owned land so that the revenues come into the town, and established some parameters about which it's sort of a given that the planning board can grant the permission. And the 100-foot height limitation was intended to allow for us to look on an ad hoc basis at every carrier that comes in to say, do we allow them to exceed it or not? Now, in order to grant a variance, this board has to hear from the applicant that there is hardship owing to soil shape or topography and the particular circumstances. So you've described that you feel that you have a gap in coverage, and this satisfies it. Will you please speak to the questions of soil shape and topography, please?
Yeah, and I just want to also add too that there's been some recent federal law that I'm not sure if town council has brought to the attention of the board, but Section 6409 of the Middle Class Tax Relief and Job Creation Act of 2012 specifically provides that state and local governments must approve an eligible facilities request for the modification of an existing wireless tower or base station that does not substantially change the physical dimensions of the tower or base station. Eligible facilities request is what we would be doing here, a co-location of new transmission equipment such as we've proposed here. A substantial change under federal law, the mounting of antennas on a tower that would increase the existing height of the tower by more than 10% or 20 feet, whichever is greater, is considered a substantial change. This is 15 feet, which is less than 20 feet. So in the instant case, many cities and towns would grant us this relief administratively. We wanted to come through the town with the planning board and zoning board, but this 15-foot extension is an eligible facilities request. It's not a substantial change, and federal law would support the issuance of an approval.
Thank you. Now will you speak to soil shape and topography?
As far as as you alluded to earlier, our hardship here is our significant gap in coverage. And the location of this site relative to AT&T's gap in coverage and the presence of an existing tower renders the proposed location uniquely suited for our proposed facility. The hardship is owing to the shape and topography of the land and its location within the narrowly defined area within which a facility will provide the necessary coverage to fill the significant gap in AT&T's network. And the desirable relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good, without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent or purpose of the chapter of the bylaw. This variance would actually be without any substantial detriment to the public good or substantial derogation of the bylaw. The 15-foot extension would allow AT&T to erect its facility, which would have a positive impact on the citizens of the town of Littleton, emergency personnel. It's a passive use, and there's no noise, smell, sound, and we believe that it has a minimal visual impact. I know we were just talking previously about a 200-foot tower. This is 100 feet with a 15-foot extension. And we respectfully submit that pursuant to the reasons set forth in our application, which go into some of those concepts in more detail, that we meet the threshold for the issuance of a variance.
Could I also ask think of you,
Engineers probably speak to soil shape and topography.
no, I'm okay, I'm okay with it, his presentation said it succinctly and he said it, but I have one question that I just lost. I'll come back to it. Mr. Howe, you're the abutter, you're here, you're the most affected apparently.
Right.
That's why you're here. So,
Well, I'm also questioning if they have the right to put this 15-foot extension on the tower, because they do not own the tower. The tower is owned by Sprint, which I believe is the other array that's on the tower. And I believe there is a Mass State General Law saying the only people that can do anything for extensions of that tower is the owner of the tower.
so
So,
will you speak to that?
so
We have leasehold rights from the owner, so we have a property interest in the site to add and extend the tower. We have a letter of authorization included with our application from the owner of the tower, and we have full rights to do this.
Okay.
Not only entitlement rights through contractual rights, but also through the federal law as far as the permitting side.
I
Okay,
think the state law doesn't allow anybody else to do that. State law is to the point that if Sprint was to be bought out by AT&T, that tower would have to be removed. Only the original permitter is allowed to build that structure. Now, anybody else can put,
Respectfully, gentlemen, both of you respectfully, that's not before this board.
well, I'm just wondering of the accuracy of them being able to do it.
If they can't by state law, then our decision will have no meaning. That's not before us, and we don't have a right to decide that here.
Could I just add, there's no state law that would prevent us from doing this. If this tower, many towers change hands, and it does not have to be. A variance runs with the land, not the owner of the facility.
I don't think that's
Okay.
what he was alluding to, but again, it's beyond the board's purview. We're here to decide that if you've satisfied the conditions for an extension. I need to see your map again. I'd like to see where the orange dots were that you plan other locations. I want to see it again.
See, the AT&T towers, right?
It's not that map. It's not showing.
The one you
These are
held
the
up where you
orange.
showed the orange.
She has it?
These are the orange tops.
So I think
Oh,
what
I
you
want to
might,
know
what
where
you
those
might
sites are.
This here, and then over in Acton off Central Street, and then over behind Nagog.
So none of those are in Littleton.
No, this is the only one that's in Littleton
Okay.
that they're showing. I gotta tell you, I gotta believe that they should be looking at the AT&T site, because I gotta believe this little teeny shift is in distance, is insignificant enough. So maybe it's cheaper to go here, I don't know. But,
Okay. Any more board members have any other comments?
because this, right here is where the AT&T site is, right? Right here. So if it's right here, and then
and just to reiterate what we said before, that site is almost 100 feet different in elevation, and the 200-foot tower does not have availability until a lower level. That coupled with the shadowing of the topography in the area would prevent us from reaching nearly half of the coverage area or more that we would with this facility.
I have trouble believing that.
Any other questions from the board?
Just to the statute that, the regulation you quoted, you said that basically, if I understand it correctly, that 20 feet of extension could be applied to any existing tower, correct?
Correct.
Right. To the base tower, right?
That's correct.
So now, if you were to add a 15-foot extension to this tower, that would mean potentially another 5 feet could be added at some point, or potentially another 20 feet could be added at some
No,
point?
that would then, this only gets one crack at that. You can't keep adding 15,
No,
20 feet
I see.
every single time.
You do, but could somebody else, some
The
other
first-
applicant?
No, no. they would have to come back and get a full variance and whatnot.
They would come back to us and say to us, FCC requires you to allow us to have coverage. The only place we have coverage is if we had another 20 feet here above the last 20 feet, and there we go.
But they could not invoke this particular.
That's right, and I can't speak to the coverage needs of the other carriers, whether everyone's network is slightly different. Obviously, there are a number of antennas on that AT&T tower of other companies for their network, yet it wouldn't work for us. It's very common that not everyone uses the same, as you can well imagine, there's a finite amount of space on certain locations where the companies attach their antennas, so by the very nature of that, you can't replicate networks. Plus, the technology is different for every company, and the signal propagates in a very different way for each company as well.
Can you give me the site to that 6409? Is it in your materials?
It, in our application, let's see. Yeah, I mean, let me see if I have a.
And Shelley, while he's looking for that, do we have any comments from the building inspector? And did we receive anything formal from the planning board?
No, well, Maren gave the memo and a copy of the decision, so there was a note on the memo that was on the top of the decision.
We just want to read that into the record if we
Yeah.
have it.
Who's the decision?
I love the cell phone coverage. I hate cell phone towers.
Reading into the
How's
record
that
the
for-
memorandum from the Littleton Planning Board. The planning board voted 5-0 to grant a wireless communications special permit to AT&T/New Singular Wireless. I've attached a copy of that decision for your information. One issue the planning board considered in their review was whether coverage could be provided using the existing AT&T site at 451 Newtown Road. The radio frequency engineer at the public hearing, Sohail Usmani, testified that there was no installation height at the 451 Newtown Road site that could fill the identified coverage gaps. Thanks for the opportunity to provide input. That's from the planning
And
board.
the citation you wanted is the Middle Class Tax Relief and Job Creation Act of 2012. Enacted February 22, 2012. And there's been quite a lot of communication between a number of, is Chris Heath the attorney for this? He'd be very familiar with this.
Okay. He's not here. We have to make our decision without him.
Or we can
Or we
continue,
can continue to have him come in.
we can continue and ask for a vote.
Do you have other questions, Mr. Hunt?
Not that can, well, not that would pertain to them.
Any other members of the board? Argument
No questions, no.
unusually silent.
Well, no, I mean, I can make a comment.
Please.
That if the tower was all by itself, I'd have a little more problem with it, but it's sitting next to that ugly water tap. So as a result, it's kind of hard to say, you don't have 15 feet when it's sitting next to that
The
eyesore.
problem is, if you look at the pictures, look at the pictures, this one's from Nagog Hill Road,
No, I see, yeah.
you know?
Yeah, it's
This
up a
one's
little bit
from
higher.
Lake Shore Drive. They certainly are visible.
Patrick, do you have a comment? Alan?
No.
I've made lots of comments.
Jeff?
No.
Alan?
Actually, I just have a question. If you were the only one on the tower, you could be at 100 feet.
That I don't,
Yes, probably.
What would stop you from putting another tower on the site? Would the tower that's already there interfere with if you were forced?
yeah, from a land use planning perspective, we prefer not to. I'm sure you wouldn't want another tower there.
Or would lower you down to 100 feet? And then it would give you ability to have co-ownership on that tower at 80 feet.
Yeah, Our preference is to not introduce a whole new structure into the landscape, and obviously this other height is preferable from a coverage standpoint.
Right.
We didn't even look at 100 from the standpoint of, well, we may have, but definitively I can't say it works perfectly. I'm sure it works pretty well, but the idea was, sorry?
If I was to have something built from ground up, I would choose a different location. Because there are patches of coverage from where we are, just because of the terrain issues.
Well, is there another location that's also municipal land that would work as well or better?
Because this is a co-location, we preferred it right from the start.
Because it's cheaper for you, but if you can get another location at 100 feet, is there another municipally owned site that would work?
It would be, I look at a number of alternatives, not necessarily town-owned properties, but they don't work in the sense that because of the elevation, the 559A Newtown Road is on top of the hill, thus and therefore would give us much better coverage. So that's why when we identify there is an existing tower, looking at most of the town bylaw, that would be the preferred location as a co-location. So we did not really pursue other lower elevation and a raw land build. It would be a lot more difficult from a zoning standpoint to have a new tower,
Yeah, this
as
room
well
could
as
conceivably be
elevation.
full with abutters who have concerns about introducing a new 100-foot structure.
Can you tell me if the 15 feet extension that you're requesting, is that 15 feet from the existing top of tower to the new top of array or top of tower?
Okay, so originally, our design calls for only a 10-foot extension. However, the current tower owner is actually Crown Castle, and they went to the engineering, and they determined that the only way they can extend the lattice tower is a 15-foot section because structural design. So that's why we revised it to 15-foot extension. And the antenna will be, the center line of the antenna will be roughly 109 feet.
And what's the
And the height, I think it's an 8-foot antenna. So you're talking about the tip is still below the
Yeah,
the
we
top.
won't pierce the 115.
We're not going to be above the top of that 15-foot extension.
And the tip of your array will still be 2 feet below the 115? So you're really at
Yes.
113.
Yep.
That's their-
And you can't drop those any lower so that the top of the array is down at the 10 feet that you
It-
originally wanted?
That's because of the structure, the way the lattice works. You may put a different load on the structure if you shift it.
I'm sorry. Also, you have to have a separation between the two carriers. There has to be vertical separation and horizontal separation. In
And
this
you're,
case,
and you're at the minimum?
10 feet separation, yes.
Also, can you tell me if the planning board imposed requirements of bonding the removal of these things if you do disappear and go out of business or whatever?
They did not.
Isn't that part of
I
our
believe the
bylaw that
tower
you're
owner-
supposed to do that?
I believe the tower owner has that.
But what about your arrays? If you disappear, those
Yeah.
arrays are still going to sit there as long as the tower owner has a tower underneath you. And I would like your arrays to go away if you're done.
I mean, our antenna will go away after we terminate the.
Yeah, we agreed to any condition that when we stop using it, we'll remove them.
You did agree or will agree?
We would.
But they're removing the arrays, not the 15-foot structure,
Correct.
which you do not own, you rent essentially or lease.
Well, that's the question. Will you rent, will you build the 15-foot addition? Is that going to be yours?
It's owned by the Crown.
It's owned by the tower company.
I still I don't have such an
So-
objection to the 15 feet of structure remaining, but I want those arrays to go away if they're done.
That's fine if you, if,
Acknowledge the changes, so
Yeah,
it makes
And
sense.
and I don't want any lights on that tower, I don't want flashing lights or blinking lights, that would be a condition as well.
we agree to that, as well as if we stop using the property, we agree to remove the facility and would also back that up by a removal bond.
That's in our bylaw anyway, so the removal of abandoned towers and facilities. And it says if you're not operated for a continuous period of 12 months.
Section 12, yeah.
I gotta tell you, I don't think a second tower 100 feet
No.
is going to look better than one tower a little taller.
I would not be in favor of the second one tower.
So I think the board has,
Nice.
yes, please,
I
Mr.
just want to put one more thing, that's also no lights on the cabinets or anything like that. I don't know if you ever have lights, so there should be no lighting at all in that area of the facility.
Is that the way it is now?
Yeah,
it is
so
now.
no security lighting for the base or anything
Correct.
like
Right,
that.
no lighting at all.
Okay. You're gonna be writing this decision.
Make
Yeah,
sure you close
great.
and lock, make sure you close and lock the gates.
Yep, the only light there could conceivably be is
It's a parking
when they
spot.
get to the facility, when they open the door
Yeah.
of the equipment shelter, a small light could come on, but that site is visited on average once a month.
But that's at the low level, at the
Oh,
ground
yeah,
level,
yeah, yeah.
at ground level.
No, I'm talking about a continuous light being.
No, no, no.
I know if you
No
open up, if you
continuous
open it up,
lights,
you could have lights.
and there'll be
somewhere.
nothing on the tower.
No lights on the tower, the structure, or the array.
Correct.
Is that all right?
Yeah, that is actually, I'm looking at the draft of the planning board decision. It says, no lights shall be placed on the tower, no lights shall be placed on the other upper buildings to be constructed on this site, so there will be no lighting.
It doesn't hurt for us to repeat it.
What's the
right?
cabinet? What's the cabinet? Is the cabinet down below, or is the
Yes,
cabinet?
there are cabinets on the ground that,
It's inside a shelter.
inside the
sheds.
shelter.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to close if everybody's had their say.
I move to close the hearing.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor closing?
Aye.
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 Do we need further deliberation, or have we exhausted?
I just think that these are issues we need to think about. I think we need to think about as more and more, as competition gets greater, which is a wonderful thing, because it keeps our cell phone bills lower. And we all love having good cell phone coverage. Somehow we need to figure out a line in the sand. Or at least a weighty line, or at least a guideline, or at least a something.
That should go before town meeting if we're going to make those modifications to it in the future. But it's interesting, when cell towers were first coming into vogue, I went through town and did a photo essay of all the phone lines and the poles for phone lines and the cable.
And it's
It's
gotten
scary,
worse,
it's
and we have
worse,
no
it's
input, and
terrible.
they're up to 60 feet high now.
They're up to
I
60
know.
feet
I
high, and they're as
don't know.
ugly as sin. These are way less obtrusive, and I am glad, personally, I'm glad that you're not on the AT&T tower. I think those lights are a nuisance. They wake me in the middle of the night because they're right in my bedroom window, which is why I respect your fear about the lights. And I sit under the frequencies on the AT&T tower, so I share your concerns. But I am satisfied myself, so I'll take a motion.
I move we approve the variance for the 15-foot height extension to accommodate an array for AT&T Mobility as described in the drawings submitted. What date should we have these drawings? The 3/11/15?
Or the 2/6/15.
Well, it says 3/11, the latest date is 3/11/15 for construction.
The date that the petition was filed.
Yeah, use the petition date, as submitted with the
Whole packet
petition.
was-
As submitted with the petition.
Can you put my conditions on it, please?
With the following conditions, that there be no lights on the proposed structure, and what was the other?
Or array.
Or array, and that,
Equipment shed, whatever you
and
call
do we need, were we doing the removal bond or not?
Yes.
And that there shall be a removal bond,
If the applicant remove the array pursuant to section 12, let's say, if the use is discontinued, and post a removal bond for the performance. Okay?
yes.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded to approve the variance as requested with conditions, no lights, and a removal agreement and bond.
Can we just put in there that this is the only, we can't draw a line and say this is the only, they were granting this contingent upon this being the only extension that will ever give it back, then we can't do that, can we?
Nope. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Now we've now written a 115-foot bylaw.
What?
So the bylaw
We
is now
essentially have
115-foot bylaw.
20 feet
This is,
according to
this
that.
is the
Well,
second one we've
115.
done.
May I-
They're saying up to 20
Right, but I
foot.
mean, literally up to 115, because that's what you granted them, so if somebody else comes to 115, they pretty much have it, because you can't.
You know, it's a real catch-22.
Yeah, I
It
know,
really
yeah, I
is.
know.
And the FCC will ram it down our throats, and if we say,
I know.
oh,
Well,
we don't
they-
have to be on, we don't need to do this on the record.
Yeah, they
But
ran
the
this,
FCC
they ran the whole thing down our throats to begin with. so.
That's right.
Well,
And
but this was buried in a middle-class tax relief bill. That's,
Yeah.
that's,
How did towns like Concord avoid these towers? I mean, they do, they don't have them. I mean, I gotta tell you, coverage in Concord Center is terrible.
well, I know Lincoln, on Route 2 in Lincoln, it's all.
Nobody avoids them.
Too bad they're with
Not
some
anymore.
threshold, but
They're
Somehow
not
they are.
avoidable, but the bylaws
Restrict them.
restrict them. And like I said, I thought this board and the planning board did a wonderful job 20 years ago of keeping them out of neighborhoods, off hills. I have a client in Boxborough who's got one on his farm, and those neighbors hate it. But
Originally, we were supposed to put a 180-foot tower down by the Woods Life Care Centers with the original.
one near the Life Care Center, one was proposed at the Wood Stove
Yeah.
Shop, which triggered the bylaw.
But the one by the Life Care Center was a 180-foot one that they originally came up with.
Actually, your bylaw is as aggressive as any, which is good from your perspective. I mean, we've permitted towers in Dover, which is very difficult, much higher than 100 feet, 150 feet, you know, I mean, it's, I think if I were writing a bylaw, I'd want everything to go to municipal land, and I'd want to keep it as low as possible, and unfortunately, federal law, we're off the record now.
Well, here's the next question. If, say, for instance, you were representing someone who's gonna build a new tower, and the planning board or whomever said no, you can litigate that? Can you litigate it successfully? Or
It would depend, we'd have to prove that we have that gap in coverage and that there were no alternative locations for that facility to go. I mean, these facilities are not, you know, they are, you do see them, so to say that, you know, you're not gonna find a location where nobody can see it. It's trying to minimize the visibility of it and proving that you picked the best available site for a new tower like that.
You know,
And, you know, whether you're in close proximity to a neighborhood or if you're in close proximity to historic areas, that all those factors come in for finding the best location. And the boards have the ability to, you know, kind of control that.
when we started this too, it was very popular to make them look like trees. And I've noticed that all the towers that look like trees, they've taken the leaves,
The
they've
problem
they've
is,
taken the leaves off because they look
unless it's
so
a
phony.
really, unless it's a really nice one, that are very, very expensive, they don't look that
They,
good.
they look awful.
They actually
don't
draw attention to them because
Yeah.
people go, what, that's.
That's a weird.
There's one on
fig
Route
tree.
89, when you go up in New Hampshire, you drive by, you would never know it was a tree. It looks so good, but you don't see a.
Here's the one in Harvard you see from Route 2.
No, the
Yeah.
leaves are
And
gone, they
that-
took off the foliage
Well-
because
Did
it
they
looks
take
so
off
ugly.
woods? That looks so fake.
'Cause
Yeah.
it's-
What we see more of now are cities and towns asking for flagpoles.
Yeah, the monopoles.
And, the uni-pole type structure.
Were you open with asking for that?
Well, I like the whip antennas and the poles
one
better
that
because
we-
they don't look like antennas.
The one off Beaverbrook is a monopole.
This site, we have the towns on this site.
And let's close
There
this.
are municipal antennas on this
Actually, the
tower
top,
now.
we are going to relocate the
We're gonna move
town's
the town
public
up
safety
even higher.
antenna to the top.
Because they have to be at the top, and we all have to have our separations.
Oh, you're gonna take our town's public safety antenna and put it on top of yours?
It's
Yeah, this
It's
site.
already on the tower, and because we're extending it, we gotta put them back up, so they'll be 15 feet higher than they are now, which is even better for them.
It's more
So wait a
coverage for
minute,
the town.
so how,
Do they have to come back to
how tall
us?
is how tall is the whole thing with their antenna on top of it?
Still be 115.
It's still at 115, it's just an
Yeah.
antenna sitting on top of the
Antenna.
115.
It's a single whip antenna
Yeah.
for the town.
Yeah. That's probably gonna give them better coverage too.
And usually the
Or do they
town
have
would
to come
would
back
put the
up?
public
Do they
safety
talk to
on.
us?
No.
No, because it's just the whip
It's
antenna,
not the
it's not the
structure.
structure.
yeah.
Thank you for your presentation.
Yeah, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Good night.
I'll entertain a motion to close.
Make a motion to close.
Second?
Alan voted. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Close.